So, I can speak sitting or prefer? What do you prefer? Standing? Yeah. We can vote. Okay. So, as I said before, this talk will be divided into two parts. The first part is a logical proof of God's existence. This part is actually a question who was addressed to the Lubavitcher Rebbe by students. So, do we have a proof of God's existence? As you know, perhaps, the Talmud says in Masechet Makot that God gave to Jews 613 commandments, okay? 248 positive commandments and the 365 negative commandments, okay? And to say what is a commandment by only reading the text of the Bible is not so easy. This is the reason why some scholars deduce from the text what is a commandment and what is not a commandment. About God's existence, there is a discussion between the Rambam and other scholars. The Rambam says in his list of commandments that it's a commandment to believe in God. Other scholars don't quote this commandment in the 613. One of the great scholars of the Spanish school of Hakira, that means in the 15th century, whose name is Rabbi Chazdai Kreskas, was a mathematician, by the way, says that to say that there is an order of God to believe in God is a nonsense. He says it's completely silly. Why? Because he says, what is a commandment? A commandment is something that God, that we suppose he exists, orders us. Okay? When you put on tefillin, it's because you suppose that God exists and he orders us to put on tefillin. So how can you say that God, that we suppose he exists, tells us, believe in me? We already suppose that he exists. We know he exists. How can he tell us to believe in him? So he says it's completely silly that there is a mitzvah, a commandment, to believe in God. Rabbi Yitzhak Abarbanel, who is a very great scholar of this school of Spain, was a minister of Isabel the Catholic, who was anti-Semitic, says that actually there is no problem. When the Rambam says that it's a commandment to believe in God, it doesn't mean to believe in God's existence. Why? Because for Judaism, God's existence is obvious. It's an evidence. And the faith in God is at a higher level. Which level we'll see this afterwards. But what is important here is to notice that God's existence for Judaism is an evidence. How can it be an evidence? The Talmud already speaks about this. The Talmud says, we see that a man lives, okay? He is living because he has a soul. What is a soul? We don't know. But we know that we have a soul, and this is the reason why we live. Okay? I give you a mathematical definition of a soul. A soul is the difference between a living man and a dead man. It's mathematical, yeah? So, we live because we have something in us which is a soul. And the Talmud says, in the same way, the universe has a soul. It cannot live by himself. And when we see the universe, we see our world, it's so well settled that we are obliged to say that there is a force. Don't say God, but there is a force who created the universe. You'll say it's rather naive. Not too much. Because, you know, at the 18th century in France, there was a movement who was called the movement of light. It's a French philosopher of this time. This philosopher made the base of the French Revolution. There are Diderot, Voltaire, and so on. Very great philosopher. Diderot made the first encyclopedia, okay? And they had the concept of the great watchmaker. They say, when you see a clock which works perfectly, you know that there is a watchmaker who made this clock. When you see a world which works perfectly, okay, as long as man doesn't mix in it, you are sure that there is a great watchmaker. This is said by philosophers. But for us, as the 21st century, even in the 20th century, who are people for whom the rationality is at a higher level? We know science. Science is very precise in many subjects, many topics. It seems to be naive to believe in such a thing, that it's an evidence that there is God. No, there are natural laws. But why not the great watchmaker? Why not? Because there is a fundamental difference between the idea of a watchmaker and the idea of God. What are the fundamental differences? First, a watchmaker, we can see him. God, we don't see him. Two, a watchmaker, we know what is it. God, we don't know. Three, the idea of an engineer and a watchmaker who can do a clock is rational. But the idea of an almighty God is completely above rationality. Okay? So these are the three questions we can ask. And the scientific mind will not agree to believe in such a thing. We don't see him, we don't know what he is he, and it is above rationality. So, let us explore in science if there are not such questions. You know that the idea of a proof can vary from a level to another. For example, for anybody, a proof is what he can see. For a scientist, the proof is made through experiments and very careful things. So we are going to take a science which is very precise. Which science is the most precise? People will say mathematics. No, I say no. I am a mathematician, I can't say no. Why? Because mathematics is not a science. It's a game. You agree? It's a game. You have assumption and you play with these assumptions. You have no experiments in mathematics. So, the purest science is physics. Okay? Because physics deals with simple things, not like biology. Biology deals with living things. Physics deals with very simple things. So, let us see if you have in physics such questions. First question, we don't see God. Okay? You see that here there is light. Okay? Why is there light? There is no window. Because there are lamps. And why it lights? Because there is electricity. What is electricity? Electricity is very, very, very tiny particles called electrons who go through wires. Okay? Did you ever saw an electron? Did you ever see an electron? An electron. Who saw an electron in his life? Nobody. And I can say you that nobody is able to see it, and we are very far from seeing an electron. And the quantum physics even says that we are not sure the way the electron goes through the wire and so on. So we have here a physical phenomenon made by something we cannot see. But all scientists believe that it is true because we see the effect. Okay? So, you see, for a scientific mind, not to see something is not a proof it doesn't exist. Okay. Second level of question. But God, we don't know what He is. In science, we know everything we deal with. Yes? You agree? Yeah? Why French people are upright and Australian people are downright. They are downward and we are upright. I speak about the French people, I am French. The true question is not why French people walk upward, because they are French. The question is why the Australian people go downward. The answer is that you have a gravity field, okay? And the gravity field attracts people and makes them walk anywhere on a spheric world, okay? Second question, what is gravity? A field. But what? When you speak about light, now we know that light is carried by photons. But gravity, this question was asked by very high physicists. They tried to have a model of what carried gravity so far. You know that all the planets can turn around because of gravity. No answer, no model. We don't know what is gravity. But we see that it exists. Because we walk on the Earth, the planet go around, so there is such a field. We can even write the equations of the gravity. Why do we believe it exists? Because we see the effects. So we have a second scientific phenomenon based on something we don't know what it is, and we believe in it because its effects. Third question, the idea of a God Almighty is beyond rationality. But we scientists, all we deal with is rational, okay? You heard about a Jew whose name was Einstein. Of course. Einstein was the founder of the relativity theory. One French scientist at his time gave a talk at the French Academy of Science about the paradox of the twins. Who heard about the paradox of the twins? No? He says like that. For the relativity theory, if you have two twins, age of 20 years on the Earth, you take one of the twins, you put it in a rocket which goes in space at the speed close to the light speed. It goes for 20 years in the space. But because of the speed, it becomes order of 2 years. This is relativity. The time is relative to connected to the speed. Okay. So after 20 years, when he comes back to Earth, he is 22. And his twin, his brother, is 40. Can you believe in such a thing? The scientists who were in the hall of the French Academy showed to him tomatoes. They say, there is a joke. This is a joke. You cannot say something like that. It's not science. This scientist was called Langevin. Now he has a hall in the French Academy at his name, Hall Paul Langevin. Here, and it is not the only thing Einstein proved. For example, you know, E equal to mc squared. You heard about this? The formula E equal mc squared says that in such tiny things, with such tiny things, if we succeed to transform this in energy, you can blow up the whole city. Do you believe in this? And this is exactly E equal mc squared. It's completely not rational. We are not in the frame of rationality. So, we see that in science, you have laws who are far beyond rationality, and we believe in them because they're effect. You'll tell me, what are the effects of relativity? When I go to the market, I don't use relativity. You agree? There's not a big effect. Yes, when you have some particles in accelerators of particles who you study their shocks with the relativity, you understand what's going on. But it's not very important. Don't say that. Everybody knows what is a GPS. GPS is based on relativity. Without it, we couldn't have a GPS. So we have real effects of the relativity. So we saw that all the questions you can ask on God, you could ask them in physics. So that means that for a scientist, a scientific mind, it's not so silly to believe in God, in the great watchmaker. And when you see our world with all the details, with all the details of our world matched together, you know, I had a physics teacher who was a religious Jew who told us once, you see, you know that water is one of the rare liquids which become lighter when it freezes. When water freezes, the ice is lighter. Okay? Stay above lighter. When you put glass in water, it's above because it is lighter. Okay. So almost all the other liquids are heavier. So guess, when it's winter, particularly in Russia, the lakes freeze. Okay? If ice was heavier than water, the ice would fall into water. What will happen? Water will freeze once more, and in a few hours, the whole lake would be frozen. Okay? And what about the fish? They would die. Because of water is lighter, you have one layer of ice which protects the water of cold. And the fish can live. It's a little detail of our world, but you see how everything is fitting to protect one the other. So, why not say that there is a superior force which is the creator? By the way, and this is an important thing, I forgot to. By the way, I want to tell you, I didn't prove that God exists. Oh. I proved that the Creator exists. There is a Creator. You say, no, God is a Creator. Yes, I agree. God is a Creator, but the Creator is not God. What do I mean? To create is a small part of God, small activity. God is much beyond of creation. Okay? So this is the reason why God is the creator, but the creator is not God. And what we proved here is the existence of a creator. But God can create, but he can make other things. And this is the second part of my talk. One of the proofs of God's existence and almighty, the omnipotence of God is miracles. Okay? Miracles for a rational mind is something weird. What is miracle? We know that we have laws of nature, okay? And the whole world is ruled by these laws, okay? But I would ask a question. What is the nature of nature? That means, you heard about Descartes. Laplace. You heard about Laplace. He was a French mathematician and physicist. At the 18th century. And Laplace built a whole theory, the theory of determinism. What is determinism? Laplace says the following thing. If you give me the initial data and the law who rules the world, I can predict what will be the world at any time, in 10,000 years. Because with the initial data and the rule, I can compute what will occur. Okay? What will happen in any time. This is determinism. It was his theory of determinism. Once he gave a talk in front of Napoleon I, the Emperor of France. And after the talk, Napoleon went to him and he said, Master, it was very interesting. But what did you do of God in your theory? And Laplace answered, I didn't put God in my parameters. It was true. Yeah. He didn't put God in his parameters. You know that the idea of deterministic laws nowadays is completely put away. Now we know that a physical law is the fact of probability. That means the physical behavior is the most probable behavior of nature. But you can have some facts which are not beyond the physical one, nature, the physical law. The physical law is only the most probable. You know what is a Gaussian? The physical law is a peak of the Gaussian. But you have the side of the Gaussian. It can occur that the physical law will not work once. So we could say that miracle is the side of the Gaussian. It's the one time where the physical law doesn't work. Very easy, no? Yes, but I have two questions on this. First, that means that God depends on probability. And as we see, miracles happen at the good time. If God opened the Red Sea 1 hour after the Egyptians come, all the Jews were killed. You agree? So it happened at the right moment. It's the right man at the right place, at the right moment. So it cannot be probabilistic. You agree with me? So, how can a rational mind admit a miracle which is not in the frame of natural laws? To understand this, we must give the Jewish point of view on nature. You know, the Rambam, in the first chapter of the Mishneh Torah, said that one of the greatness of God is that He makes the planets go around with the same movement indefinitely. You see, he says that we see the greatness of God in this. What's the meaning? For me, while I am a scientist, I know that the planets go around because we have gravity. It's a physical law. What is Ramban saying? That God is turning the planets around. So, to understand this, we have to see the Jewish point of view of nature. For people who pray here, they say every morning, Amchadesh metuvo bechol yom tamid maaseh bereshit. That God renews with His kindness always the creation, the initial creation, maaseh bereshit. What does it mean? Our sages say not only every day, but at every moment. What does it mean? The Arizal, Rabbi Yitzchak Luria, you heard about him, he was a huge Kabbalist. The Arizal say that actually God did not create the world. He creates the world at each moment. That means, the Arizal says like that. At each moment, he defined precisely what is a moment. It's less than a second. Okay? He says, at each moment, God provides an influx, a certain force, which make our world live. And when the moment goes away, this force goes up and another one comes. So, in this way, God recreates at each moment the world. Okay? That means that we have natural laws. Okay? But for Judaism, these laws do not behave by themselves. They are recreated every moment by God. That means that all what is in this whole disappears and come back every moment. We don't feel it because we are in continuity. But God recreates all the parts of this. What is easier? You know, there was a story in the school of Venezia. You know, in Venezia you had very great painters. Okay? So at this time, one student wanted to show his master how he can draw. And he took a frame and he made a perfect circle from the first row, like that. Whoop! Perfect circle. And his master saw it. He came and he made the perfect circle inside of his circle. What is amazing? He made a circle. Did you try to draw a circle? It's very difficult. Why is it difficult? Because the points of a circle play exactly the same role. A circle is the most perfect figure. Okay, so this is the reason why it's very difficult to draw a perfect circle. And this is what we are saying. And this is what the Rambam said. What is the greatness of God? That if make the planet go around with in the same way at each moment. That means he recreates each moment a part of the way of the planet. Perfectly. Okay? So, I shall ask the women here, what is easier to do? Something clean or balagan? No, because men know how to do balagan. Okay? The problem is with women. Okay. So, it's much easier to do something which is not regular than to do something which is regular. So, I ask the question, if God recreates the world in the same way every moment, what is more difficult? To recreate it the same way or to make a miracle? A miracle is balagan. Okay? You escape the law. A miracle is a balagan. You agree? So, it's much more amazing to have physical laws than to have a miracle. In the words of Chassidus, we say that a miracle is a new law, or a law is a miracle which is always renewed. The whole nature is a sequence of miracles. And sometimes the nature escapes the law, and that means a miracle. So you see that even for a rational mind, from the Jewish point of view of nature, a miracle is, let's say, natural. It's an easy thing. Okay. So we see that even miracle is not so much a subject of faith. We can understand that God does miracles. So where is the faith? In what a Jew must believe? In Chassidus is taught that God is a uniform entity. That means, when you ask what is God, many people say God is infinity. No. Infinity is a creation. Finite is also a creation. God is not infinite. He is undefined. You cannot say anything on God. God is not infinity, is not finite, is not materiality. Even, says Tzemach Tzedek, God is not spirituality. God is not more spiritual than material. God is undefined, an almighty entity, undefined. This is the true faith. What does it mean, almighty? When people speak about almighty, they think that God can do miracles, something very big, very great, but it's not this. The Gemara, the Talmud says that God is nimna animnaot. What is nimna animnaot? This is impeachment of the impeachment. You know, I was at the time of 68 in France. There was a revolution in 1968. And the revolutionaries who wrote on the walls, "It's forbidden to forbid." It's forbidden to forbid. It's the same thing for God. It's forbidden to say that it's impossible to be impossible. Impeachment of the impeachment. What is the idea? One of the Talmudic commentary says, give the following example. He says, if a man wants to imagine that an elephant goes through the hole of a needle. Okay? You have two ways to think about this. Either the needle will be very big, or the elephant will be very small, or globally, or locally. Okay? Can you imagine another way? No. And the Ritva says, God can leave the elephant as he is, as it is. The needle as it is, and can effectively, actually, make the elephant go through the hole of the needle. That means that what we cannot imagine, God can do it. Not only imagine it. He can do it. Nous, великим в таких вещи. Thank you for answering. if you have questions, I can perhaps answer. Once a rabbi said, if somebody have a question, I just had to answer. So, do somebody has a question? Yes? 1 minute because I must. You can speak Russian. It's translated in. You can just speak Russian. The question is translated into English. 1 minute. I have to. Okay, I put it. However. No. You can try. Speak. Yeah. Speak. Can you speak? Okay. So.
Я бы хотел спросить уважаемого Рава о том, что был такой философ Кант, и он сказал о том, что Бог может существовать только в разуме человека, что за пределами разума человек не может оценивать действительность, что мозг человека, он думает абстракциями, он не в состоянии видеть всю картину целиком, и то, что только по маленькой части он делает огромные выводы. Поэтому совершенно естественно возложить то, что человек не может объяснить, и то, что не знает, на существование Бога. Хотя это просто та область, которую человек просто не может объяснить в силу своих ограниченных возможностей.
Yes. Actually, as far as I know, this is a kind of philosopher who says that, for such philosophers, even reality is not so obvious. Okay, there is a very known question: who proves that green is the same color for me and you? When I say green, I see something. You also say something. But can you prove that what you see is the same color as I see? That means that even reality depends on the mind of man. That means that you can see the behavior of the world. As you know, in Chassidus and Judaism, we say that you have two kinds of miracles. The miracles which breaks nature, like when the Jews go through the Red Sea, okay? And miracles which are in nature, like Purim. Purim, you know that in the Megillah, you don't have once the name of God. Why? Because it's an old story of Purim. It was a natural story, political story. Okay, it could be in the newspapers. That is what it was a miracle, because God put His strength in nature. It is a second kind of miracles. So, when you speak about what is above our mind, you have two things. you have concepts that you cannot imagine, and you relegate it to God, as I said. But even the natural behavior can be a miracle. If you accept the idea of God, you see that there is here something special. If you don't accept, you will write it in newspaper, that's it. Okay? So, it's very, let's speak about Big Bang. You know Big Bang theory? Yes? The Big Bang theory says that the whole universe was created by the Big Bang. Okay? What is a Big Bang? It's all particles of energy were in one point. And this point burst out. You have physics researcher that study the first moments of Big Bang. When you speak about first moment, it's that 10 power minus 30. 0, nobody knows it. Okay? And we have the whole theory of the universe formation with these particles that the planet. First, it's a scientific theory, okay? But first, you know that there was energy which bursted out, okay? But where this energy came from, there is no answer. Why? Because to know where this energy comes from is not the domain of physics, but metaphysics. So the physicists do as they know everything, but they don't want to speak about what they don't know. And you have other questions. You know that they had a very difficult question. If the energy burst out in an isotropic way, how can the planets be blocks? It's isotropic. Why suddenly you have blocks of planets? A great physicist, who is called Higgs, had an answer. You know, in Russia, they noticed a phenomenon very interesting. They didn't have the answer for many years. They found horses caught in ice in a lake. You didn't hear about this? Horses caught in ice in the lake. And they didn't have any explanation. After time, they understood that, that water becomes ice at 0, okay? At 0 in Celsius, okay? But they noticed that when water is very stable, it can be liquid, remain liquid, up to, I think, -4, -5. But if you do a very slight perturbation, it becomes suddenly ice. And this is what happened to these poor horses. They went in a liquid lake, and they made a big perturbation, and it became suddenly ice, and they were caught in the ice. Okay? So Higgs had this idea. actually there was a little perturbation in the particle, and it made planets. Where does this perturbation come from? No answer. You know, I taught physics in a Jewish school, and an exercise was on the Higgs phenomenon, or the Higgs law. I told them, look, physicists took God out by the door, and he came back by the windows. Because this little perturbation, we have no rational explanation about it. Okay? So God, they said, God, you know, there was a French poet who said, our Father who is in the sky remains there. They made the same thing. They don't want God. They took him out by the door. But without God, without little perturbations, they could not do anything. So you can explain whatever you want, but there are always questions. And you cannot say that also, so we don't know. Because you see that we have the Bible who speaks about God. You have a chain of sages, of tzaddikim, who made miracles. I lived in the time when the Rebbe was alive, and miracle by the Rebbe was every day. Every day. You can go on YouTube. On YouTube you have people who speak about miracles. There is no explanation. So, why not say that God exists? It's rational. I prove that it's rational. You are not a bad man if you think about it. You are not a bad scientist, even a bad scientist, if you think that God exists. But the Rebbe says in a letter that people want a man is an intellectual being, and he wants to understand all. And this is the reason he doesn't want to admit that there is a force which is above him. But it is not the only reason. You know what is the true reason? Because when you admit that God exists, you are a religious man. You cannot eat anything. You cannot do anything. You cannot go to dancing, and so on, and so on. So it's much easier to have pseudo-intellectual reason not to believe in God. Do you agree? Do you have another question? Yes.
Добрый день. У меня вот вопрос такого порядка, немножко про физику. Вот, уже есть такая теория, как корпускулярно-волновой дуализм. То есть если частица, которая может вести себя как частица и как волна, в зависимости от того, есть ли наблюдатель в системе или его нет. Вот, по сути, если делать отсюда выводы, то можно сказать, можно сказать, что если в какой-то момент наблюдатель появляется в эксперименте, то он и влияет, собственно, на эксперимент. Вот. И получается то, что можно ли сделать отсюда вывод, то, что вы сказали в начале лекции, что Творец воссоздает ежесекундно и ежемоментно эту Вселенную. Правильно ли тогда понимать, что если в областях определенной Вселенной нет наблюдателя, то Творцу нет необходимости создавать там картинку? То есть если вы, условно говоря, добрались до какой-то далекой звезды и планеты, ладно, окей, для вас мы создадим кусочек мира. Вот. Если вас там нет, то, собственно, Творцу нет необходимости там что-то создавать. И отсюда возникает вопрос, что наша Вселенная, если во Вселенной есть наблюдатель как человек, то она и создана для нас, потому что если нас нет в какой-то области, там и не происходит вот этого чудотворения. И если вот в талмудических текстах, еврейских текстах какое-то, скажем так, обоснование вот этого, но не со стороны физики, а со стороны вот древних текстов, что так оно все и есть на самом деле, а ученые только сейчас дошли до этого и стали понимать эти процессы таким образом. Спасибо.
Okay, in your question you have many parts. Okay, first, you know that the quantum point of view of materials is that every material particle is connected with a wave, okay? This holds even on us. We are connected with waves. But the energy of the wave, when you have a big thing, is very small. But for a particle, it makes something. Comparatively to a particle, this wave is something important. For us, not. Okay. So that means that quantum physics cannot be applied to our world in its globality. It can be applied to, because there is no mean of the waves which is with particle. Okay. When you say that if we are not observers, the world is not worse, yes, somehow like that. It's exactly what the Talmud says. The Talmud, the Midrash Tanchuma in Parashas Naso asks the question, why God created the world? Okay? And the answer is, Shenitava HaKadosh Baruch Hu liyotlo dira batachnonim. That God has a desire to have a home in the lower levels. In Chassidus, we ask several questions about this assumption. First, what are lower levels? For God, there is no up and no down. Okay? Second question, what is a home? God is everywhere. Even, for Judaism, I am tired to be seated. For Judaism, God is not in the world is in God. Everything is in God, because there is nothing out of God. God is everything. So the creation is within God. So God is everywhere. We are in God. So what is the meaning of a home? Is God's home here? Okay? Third question. If you ask your son, why did you smash the face of your brother? And he answered, because I had this desire to smash his face. Okay? It's not an answer. Why did you do this? Because I wanted. So what says the Midrash? Why could God created the world? Because he had a desire to have a home. The answer to this question is that actually God is everywhere, but he is not revealed. Okay? This is the reason why the world exists. Because God hides in hand. And we can exist because we don't see God. Okay? So, this God is everywhere, but he is not revealed everywhere. Why? Because, as we know in mathematics, finite thing and infinity cannot coexist. Okay? If you take any finite number on infinity, it's zero. Okay? 1 billion of billions over infinity is zero. So you cannot match infinity and infinity. You cannot match a revelation of Almighty with a finite world. So, God created us, Jewish people, to make this world a home to God. What is a home? A home is a place where you can be revealed. You don't have to hide yourself at home. You do what you want. You are at home. So the aim of God is to create the Jewish people. He created mankind, and he chose the Jewish people. You know, the Jewish people are called the elected people. No. What is an elected man? A man who put money in his... No. An elected man is responsible of other people. Okay? We are responsible of all mankind. When a Jew performs a mitzvah, he do a good thing for all the mankind. So, God created the world with the man. The ultimate aim of creation is the man. So you cannot say that the world could exist without the man. Other planets can exist without man because they are not the aim of God. They just are here to put together the natural laws. But the earth, you know that the Midrash says why the earth is called Eretz. In Hebrew, the earth is called Eretz. The Midrash says because Rasta la'asot retzon kona. She accepted to do God's will. What is God's will? To accept people on it. You know that for Kabbalah, even the Rambam says, but from a Kabbalistic point of view, the planets are human entities, are living entities. The Rambam says that the planet has a knowledge of God greater than man and less than an angel. So the planets can decide, they can say yes or no. Earth was the only planet which accepted to have man on it. And as you can see, it was very courageous to have man on earth. Okay? So the whole creation is for man. So what you say cannot be, because universe without the man has no sense. You understand what I say? We are the universe. All the universe was from us. Okay? If we are not here, the whole universe is like a body without soul. We are the soul of the universe. Okay? Another question? Yes.
Вы говорили про то, что теория Лапласа считается устаревшей. Но также
Yes.
он говорил то, что...
It's official.
Также он сказал то, что там не учитывал Бога. Но говорят то, что все чудеса в рамках законов природы. Почему тогда бы не сделать такую теорию, что начальное положение не сделать так, чтобы все чудеса происходили в нужное время?
No. Because miracle is a perturbation. So it doesn't fit with the law. You cannot predict a miracle. You know, a tsunami cannot be predicted. And a fortiori a miracle. You can know that a tsunami is coming a few minutes before it comes. And it was created about one day before. And a fortiori miracle doesn't depend on any law. Okay? So it cannot be in the frame of Laplace determinism at all. It's a nonsense. You understand what I say? The miracle is God's will. It proves that God is the master of world. He can change the law when he wants. By the way, when you pray, okay, you ask from God miracles. When you say Refaeni Venera Fe, that God should care us, when you say Barach Aleinu et Hashana Azot, that God will give fertility to the world, we ask God to change the nature. Our praying is related to miracle. Okay? When you say Mishaberach, you ask God to do a miracle. Somebody is ill, you ask God to do a miracle. And this depends only on the earth. You can ask him, but he decides. Okay? Another question?
Да, но в теории Лапласа необходимо, чтобы было известно положение каждой частицы. Это подобно тому, как сейчас невозможно предугадать погоду на более чем неделю, потому что мы не можем узнать положение каждого потока ветра. И почему нельзя сказать тогда то, что чудо было уже предрешено? Или казнь?
No. Because, as I said before, we know nowadays that the natural laws are probabilistic. And this is the reason why we cannot predict two far. Because you have always some perturbations that can occur. Not everything is on the peak of the Gaussian function. You understand what I say? And this is the reason why, it's a good example for the weather, because gas is very unstable. And the law on gas cannot predict these instabilities. Yeah, in physics, you see you have laminar gas, laminar behavior, and perturbated behavior. And perturbated behavior has almost no law. The laws are probabilistic. Understand? Okay?
Здравствуйте. У меня такой небольшой вопрос, он больше морально-философский такой. Скажите, вот Б'езрат Ашем в наше время придет Моше, и божественное присутствие станет явным. Как вы считаете, вот, ну, грубо говоря, как когда-то был в храме или в переносном храме, ставить эксперименты физические на вот как-то смотреть, как это работает, что-то доказывать, это будет нормально или вообще наука не нужна будет, когда придет Моше?
Good question. We can say, you know, that the Talmud says, Ein ben olam hazeh limot HaMashiach ela shibud galuyot bilvad. The only difference between our world and the world of Mashiach is that Jews will not be submitted to the other folks. Okay? But on the other hand, you have many parts of Talmud that say that in Mashiach time, for example, the trees will provide bread. A woman who could have a baby every day, and such things. The Rebbe, somebody asked the question to the Lubavitcher Rebbe, and he answered that in Mashiach time you have actually an evolution. At the beginning, the only difference is that Jews will be free. Okay? But you know that it is said that the messianic time will last 40 years. After the beginning, you will appear miracles, change of nature. Not really miracle, but change of nature. So, from this point of view, we can say that most of the natural law will not be relevant. Because, for example, people who deal with trees will be very difficult for them to understand why bread comes from a tree. You know. So you are right. Most of the natural law and more natural law will be irrelevant at this time. Okay? Okay. Any more question? No. You know that the Talmud, it's a bad joke, but Talmud says that 10 parts of speaking came in the world, and women took 9, but not questions. Okay, it was a bad joke. Okay. That is, okay. So thank you, folks.